Welcome to Concerned Citizens Presents. Concerned Citizens of Laguna Woods is an organization dedicated to peace, economic and social justice, good government, and a clean environment. Every month, we invite an expert to enlighten us on a topic related to our mission. Because Village TV videotapes these presentations, we can share that expertise with a larger audience. We hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
Hello, everybody. This is Barbara Seary from Concerned Citizens, and I'd like to introduce you to our Wednesday afternoon speaker, Neil Sahota. We were thrilled to have him. His topic is artificial intelligence. It couldn't be more relevant. Neil is an IBM master inventor, United Nations Artificial Intelligence Advisor, author of the bestseller Own the AI Revolution, and he is a sought-after speaker, which I'm sure you'll agree after you hear him. We had a little bit of audio technical difficulties in the first few minutes of his talk, but if you can bear with us, you should be able to get the gist of what this individual and gentleman is telling us, which is fascinating. So thank you. It's quite an interesting ride.
We learned is about 60-70% of people's tax returns are fairly standardized. Not a lot of, kind of weird one-offs or special cases. So good use for AI. So we had to read all the tax codes, we talked about the forms, that kind of stuff. H&R Block started using the AI accountant and have a human accountant review the work. One of the things we noticed right away was that the AI's work, the average tax refund was about $236 higher than average. So we're thinking like, whoa, what's it doing here? But what we found out is that because it knew every single line in the tax code, it recognized some of these things. It was asking the people questions to confirm that, but like, this person qualifies for this $25 tax rebate. This person qualifies for like this $50 tax credit. So these little small things most of us are not familiar with, it knew it. So I was able to find that extra return. So, powerful stuff, right? And that's where the power of data comes in. And these are the most common AI use cases. So you see supply chain logistics, customer service, marketing, research and development. Should not be a whole lot of shock here. But this takes me to the second thing you have to know, and this is a real big challenge for a lot of people, is that we're used to computers being about automation. We're trying to do something cheaper, faster, less errors. Nothing wrong trying to use AI for that, but we're only tapping into 20 to 30% of its value. We call AI the third generation of computing for good reason, because it has whole new capabilities. So you have your normal toolbox, you see the hammer, you see the screwdriver, the wrench, you have this weird widget thing. I've never seen this before, I don't know how to use it. As a result, we don't think about innovation. Finding a new way to perform the work, changing the system, take advantage of new capabilities. That's how we really unlock most of the value from AI. Now, I know that it's a word that gets tossed around a lot, innovation, so I'm going to play a short video here to show you what that actually looks like. It doesn't have much sound, so don't worry about that. Just watch what this gentleman is doing. So you notice that somehow he's controlling that robotic arm in his mind?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing. Now, technologists, our first reaction is, okay, so the brain can send a signal to the phantom hand? Sweet. Let's drill a hole in the skull, put a chip in, and put the brain in this. This is not Elon Musk's Neuralink. We don't actually understand how the brain works well enough to teach an AI system. This is where, again, the best solutions come from domain experts. We work with doctors and clinical researchers. And what they help us understand is when the brain sends that signal, it triggers a process in our body. Part of that process is muscle and tendon motion. So you see above his right elbow a black band. It's an IoT, Internet of Things sensor device. It can pick up those subtle muscle and tendon motions. That we can teach in AI. AI decodes that, replicates the motion into the robotic arm. So we found a different way to essentially provide mobility. Now this was a couple of years ago. Today, this gentleman, he can actually play tennis with that robotic arm. He can shake hands, he drinks coffee with it. He's probably at about 70% use back of like a normal hand. That's what I mean by innovation. That's why the best AI solutions come from people that know the space. Another example, communication. How many people here are great communicators? What? Well, that answers that question. Oh, how many people here are great communicators? So, this is one big challenge that we have. So we always thought about, could AI help us with mental health issues? Could AI help us with communication, relationship management? And so traditionally, we always had like a demographics, some behavioral metrics. Well, what we learned is we could teach AI psychology. Taught it 75 years worth of psychology, and as in a few as 100 words, the AI can actually map you across your entire personality, all 54 personality traits, identify your psych profile, even decipher your hobbies, your interests, even your political party, with pretty good accuracy. What we've also learned is we can teach AI neurolinguistics, which is the science of language. Like I mentioned, like a fingerprint, very hard to disguise. This is actual output from a Zoom meeting. These guys were nice enough to let me share this. Whatever they were discussing, you can see the AI's analysis. So you can see for each person, it deciphered how they learn, how committed they are to what they're learning, the best way to engage them, how to follow up, what things to focus on. Like with Dan, you have to focus on the details, the outcomes. With Ryan, you got to focus on the process. So it'll even coach you on what words to use to maximize engagement with them. So what we found is by combining psychology and neurolinguistics, we effectively created a very powerful AI communication coach. We now know how to engage each person speaking their language through the channels they prefer, offering the incentives they care the most about to maximize engagement each time, every time. We started using this to help depressed and suicidal teenagers, a tool for therapists and the patients. Marketers love this for obvious reasons, but because we've learned we've really built an AI communication coach, what's happening now is we're actually now rolling out a tool to help couples, people in a loving relationship, like spouses, be able to more effectively communicate with each other, provide that communication. It's like, hey, look, your better half is saying this, I know you want to jump in and problem solve, but that's not what they want. Right? What they value right now is this is what you need to focus on. So, very powerful stuff, and that's something we typically think an AI can do. But we found that AI, while it doesn't feel emotions, there's a whole field of artificial empathy now, and it's much better at detecting the emotional state of a human being than a human being can actually do. That takes me to the third thing, the last thing I want you guys to know. This is not about human versus machine. This is not natural intelligence versus artificial intelligence. This is what we call hybrid intelligence. That's the future we're moving to. The future of work, the future of our lives. There are things that machines do better than us. They can process lots of information. They're great at math, great at scenario planning. But we as humans do a lot of things better than a machine. We're much better at creative thinking, dealing with first-of-a-kind situations, things that require a level of instinct. And so the future is really what we call hybrid intelligence, which is complementing our human abilities with machine capabilities. And to give you an example of what I mean by this, I'm going to play a video. This is from a few years ago, back in my Watson days. Fox Studios released a movie, they were going to release a movie called Morgan, which was like an AI horror movie. They wanted to do something, and I'm like, we're not really about horror with AI at IBM. But like, let's think about this. I said, like, what if we had Watson watch your movie and create a movie trailer for you? You're like, what, you can do that? Yeah. So this is the video, it's a very short video of how we actually did that.
As human beings, we're very quick to judge the mood of an individual. Possibly an AI over time might be able to develop those same instincts.
So we thought, let's send Watson to film school.
Morgan was our little breakthrough. It exceeded our wildest expectations.
You can have the whole of the Morgan movie, and you can see where action is taking place at the different moments of the movie. And this is how Watson actually extracted salient moments from Morgan, which we then proposed for making the trailer.
Watson was able to model the scene visually to determine, was the scene scary? Was it a tender moment? Was there sadness or happiness?
Watson is the tool that's helping arrange the visuals, but it still needs the human element. So then I could come in and just supervise the creative aspect of it.
I don't think AI is any value until it does start to understand and calibrate those emotions for itself.
I think that's asking a deeper question. Will computers be able to create art? Can they create? Period. It's still very difficult to think of how a computer might be capable of original thought, something that's essential in creativity.
So imagine that, you have a machine looking at, actually watching a movie and trying to draw emotional tenor from it. We went in this with a very specific demographic, right? Tuned to their behavioral traits, their psychographics. That's what Watson based this trailer on. If you're curious about the trailer, it's actually on YouTube. The movie itself, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Morgan. Not good. At least I don't have to apologize to Fox Studios anymore because they don't exist. But for that particular segment, they outperformed their projections by a factor of 3. That's how well the trailer connected to that segment. Now, it wasn't that Watson did everything by itself. It figured out the best scenes to use, the sequence to use them, but you still needed the humans to figure out some of the overlays and the music and some of these other things and what channels to put this out on for marketing. We can see the power of hybrid intelligence in play. And this is really goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the person using AI is the one that's going to take your job. It's a classic example right here. So I'll end with one last, I should say really end with one last example of hybrid intelligence. You guys recognize what this is?
Yes.
So I apologize if it grosses you out after dinner. But this is what we call a smart toilet. So it's not meant to be see-through, it's just for demo purposes. But it's a toilet that has a bunch of IoT sensors in there. So as humans, we produce waste, hopefully on a daily basis. What happens is the IoT sensors collect data about our health, our biomarkers, and the AI analyzes that. So the AI can create a very rapid, very precisely defined baseline of your health. So if anything changes, even a slight variation, we've seen this, it's so slight, it'll pick that up as early onset of illness and disease. So slight that the toilet knows when you're about to catch the flu before you do. Why is this so important? We know the earlier we can catch something, particularly disease, the more likely we can successfully treat it. So this is another tool to complement the work of human doctors and nurses, a very powerful one too. So those are the things you should know. We talked about a lot. I'm sure some of you are like, Neil, thanks for sharing this information, hopefully. But you're probably also saying like, what are you actually doing about this? Well, In my work with the United Nations, I did start the AI for Good initiative. Ironically, we had our readout summit last year. But this whole thing is about solutions. So in the past 5.5 years, we've completed 281 projects, impacting 1.1 billion people positively. Bad actors are going to do bad things, but good actors need a nudge. And that's the whole thing, is to create an ecosystem of volunteers to actually work on big problems, or small ones, around the Sustainable Development Goals. The other thing is, especially with governance, concerns about misuse and are people doing things they don't understand. One of the things we're talking about in our AI governance committee of the UN is starting a new UN agency on the governance of science and technology. So the UN, for better or worse, usually better, is one of the few organizations globally that has the trust and credibility of most people and nations. And so they're willing to take this mantle on. So that's the big stuff that's going on. So with that, I wanted to save some time for questions. If I don't get to your question, my website has a contact form, but these are also resources for articles, other things. But let's open the floor for questions.
One question. What about China? What about Russia? What about North Korea? The real headache. Our families and everything else are going to be affected by it. Because if we have it, we know they got it. They're watching us. Is there an answer to that? Are we doing something to protect us and our families?
So the question is, what about China, Russia, North Korea? We have it, they have it. What are we doing to try to protect ourselves, our families? So this, like everything else, is another arms race. So we're trying to take safeguards. You may have heard the US government, we have what we call export regulations of technology. Has banned certain things like the NVIDIA AI chips from being exported to like China, to Russia, to all North Korea, and these other places. But the truth is as much as we do this, they're going to do this. But I'll break the news to everyone. The United States is not number one when it comes to AI. We are not number one. It's a close race right now between China and Singapore. Number 3 is Japan. Number 4 is Korea. Number 5 is the UK. The US is number 6. It's a close race between China and Singapore, number 1, Japan, number 3, Korea, number 4, UK, number 5, and US, number 6, in terms of AI development and readiness.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your speech. You wrote a book in 2019. I'd like to know, since that time, what has been the biggest thing that you didn't anticipate about it, or if any?
I try to write the book to be timeless. There's actually stuff about Gen AI in there, even though it was before the time. But one thing I think I didn't really anticipate is the people factor. We always talk about people, process, technology, and how people are trying to use, or particularly misuse the technology. Like I use the example of child pornography. Never would have imagined that. That's the biggest issue.
What's your question?
I've seen the expression AI/ML. What's the relationship between AI and ML? And what is ML?
All right, so what's the relationship between AI and ML? So ML stands for machine learning.
Yeah, what is it?
So this goes back to where I talk about we don't program the machine, we teach it. So machine learning is just one component of AI. By itself, machine learning is not AI. AI is made of machine learning, so we teach the computer. AI also has the ability to understand natural language. So think about how we talk. We use a lot of slang. If I said I'm feeling blue, the computer will think I'm physically the color blue. AI doesn't look at what you're saying, it tries to draw context from the conversation. So it knows I'm saying, okay, he's not really blue, he's trying to tell me he's sad. And then AI has the ability to communicate like it's another human being. You have a conversation with it rather than just do commands to it.
You made a point at the beginning saying one of the problems facing are bad data and bias in data. I recognize you brought a number of examples, like examples of the psychoanalysis or the counseling machines, which are based on lack of data and bias when the data exists. Yet we're still forging ahead in these areas without any good data and or good, a lot of bias.
So, like I said, the bias, particularly implicit bias, you can't really strip all of that out. It's impossible, right? In terms of do we have enough data or good data, you would actually be surprised by the amount of data. The hard sciences are the ones that tend to be the easiest to teach AI systems, because they follow more, call it equations or hard facts to work with. There's a lot of things with like psychological studies that contradict each other, but we're looking at more the basis, the foundational aspects of psychology than some of these other things. I see you disagree, I'm just sharing what I know.
So one of the commercial attempts of Watson was to go to the medical field. It didn't work really well at the time. Do you think it's going to work better this time? Not Watson, whomever's going to get it.
Yeah, so this is the problem with expectations. How many people expect AI to never make a mistake? But that's what you really expect, right? What's the acceptable failure rate of an airplane? Yeah, is that possible? No, there's a number, and I know it, and I can assure you it's a very small one. But the problem, particularly with Watson early on, was that when we were talking about going to healthcare, I was actually advocating, let's go in, let's build a tool like to help doctors onboard patients, right? They come in, let's capture their information, their symptoms, some of these things. But the marketing guys are like, that's not sexy enough. Let's say that we're gonna cure cancer. It's like, you know how many forms of cancer there are? You know, the data's all siloed. If we don't solve cancer in 6 months, people will say this never works. So people process technology, people tend to be the most problem. Sometimes, particularly at IBM, we can't get our own way. So you see a lot of niche tools. That's where we're really making strides. Dictation, synthesizing information. The average physician only has about 5 hours a month to read latest medical journals and clinical research trials. AI can go read everything and summarize that for the doctor. That's the stuff we're seeing advancement.
I know there's a lot of good AI in development out there. What is the industry doing to prevent the proliferation of bad AI?
So what are we doing to try and prevent bad AI? I mean, the honest truth is we can't stop it. I won't sugarcoat it. We try and incentivize people to do good things. We try and set guidelines, encourage people for right use. But bad actors are doing bad things. That's true in anything. It's the same thing, cybersecurity. If someone wants to hack into your system, they're going to hack into it. You can't stop it. All we can do is make it as difficult as possible so it's not worth their time. And as the founding fathers said, the price of freedom is ever constant vigilance. It's all on us as a society to be on guard for these things.
The technology is not bad, it's how we use it. Question, what is not recognized by most political consultants, particularly on the left, is that there's a fire hose of phony websites that look like actual media. Can AI, on the right, and some of it from Russia, can AI distinguish between phony baloney pseudo newspapers and actual media?
So can AI distinguish between phony websites, fake news, only to a degree? So in 2020, during the pandemic, there was an initiative, these guys tried to build an AI system to detect fake news. The problem is there's so much variation on fake news it's almost impossible to have enough data to figure out all these variations. But talking with them, we had an epiphany. What we realized is, can we build an AI that can detect real news? Less variation, and that actually worked. So sometimes you have to look at the problem differently. So we test and see, is not is this fake, but is this real? And if it's not, then we know it's fake. As far as I know, most of the media agencies and government agencies have not made this generally available to the public, just because they're afraid if it came out that way, it would give the bad actors faster access to the technology to figure out how to deconstruct it and beat it. And so why do we have to worry about AI than other technology? The honest truth is, you should be worrying about all technology. All the tool, bad actors are going to do that. It's like a hammer. Technology is like a hammer. I can use it to create something, or I can use it to destroy something. It's just that, particularly in Western culture, think about the movies and books and the TV shows you've seen about humans versus machines. It's always been adversarial. So we have this natural built-in tendency to think of the bad. And I'm not saying there's no bad, there definitely is. But in Eastern culture, their books, movies, and television, they always had AI and robots as helpers. And so they look at it as tools and support mechanisms. You guys think about bad robots like Terminator and Skynet? You ever watch Star Wars?
Yeah.
Heard about 3CPO and R2D2?
Yeah.
When the rebels have won without their help? That's right, no. It can be good or it can be bad, but that's true for any technology. I can understand. I hear that sentiment a lot, that there's a lot of concern and sometimes we wish this doesn't happen. But unfortunately, the world's not going to stop on our whims. There are a lot of people that try and say, let's hit the pause button. The problem is, how are you going to get every country, every individual, every company to hit the pause button? And the bad actors aren't going to pause.
What is chatbot GPT? Who created it? How was it tied in with this? How much did it cost? And is it available to consumers?
So what is ChatGPT? Who made it? So ChatGPT is what we call a large language model. This technology has been around for almost a decade, actually. So what it really does is try and predict the next word in a phrase. That's actually all it does. However, this was created by OpenAI, this particular version. Anyone can use it right now. You can use it for free. There are some restrictions on that, or you can pay $20 a month for the full version. The thing with ChatGPT is that it made AI real for everybody. That finally they could see a direct use. People use ChatGPT to plan their vacations, to ask questions about, well, what happened at the Battle of Midway, right? Some people even use it for job searches and running their resume. So it made very mundane tasks real for people to use AI. That's why you're seeing an explosion now of everyone trying to figure out what should we be doing, and wait a second, what could be people doing wrong with it? But it's what we call generative AI. ChatGPT is the most popular one. It boasts 2.3 billion users today.
What about consciousness? Just anything about consciousness?
So what about consciousness? We don't know. When we talk about consciousness and AI becoming self-aware, self-learning, we call that artificial general intelligence. Everything we have today is called ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. It can only do a specific thing that we taught it. So like, you know, if I teach a self-driving car how to drive, it's not when it's bored thinking like, how do I play chess and learn? You can't do that. I only know of 2 people working on AGI. So whoever you ask, we're anywhere from 10 to 1,000 years away from that happening. More people are working on what I actually call the cyborg future, the integration of machine capabilities into us as people. So you saw with the robotic arm, they actually have robotic eyes now to restore vision. You can actually see X-ray, infrared through that way, just you don't know how the brain was processing that. But that's really where I think we're going to go with cyborg future. So So where did AI really get its origination? Is it one event, series of events? So conceptually, AI has been around since the 1950s.
She had a question here.
So, yeah, Alan Turing and all these other things. The reason we've seen the explosion of AI literally in the last, 12 to 13 years is data is the fuel for AI. We never actually had the data before. So with the rise of business intelligence, these technological tools to collect data in the mid-2000s, that became the fuel. The IBM Watson project we started in 2006. The Jeopardy challenge was 2011. That was the moment when people realized AI is a reality. So that was kind of the event where concept went to practicality.
So it's not one person.
It's not one person, it's not one event, it's a chain.
We have all heard the expression, garbage in, garbage out. What organizations are available to assist you in answering the question in a manner that's apt to produce an answer closer to what you want from AI?
So garbage in, garbage out, what do we have available to get the answer closer to what we want? The truth is, you should not build AI to try and give you the answer you're looking for. Let AI do the data analysis and see if that's really right. It should not be a rubber stamp. So, but to get AI to avoid garbage in, garbage out, we need to have good data, the right data, which means we have to understand how things work. So you guys heard about the bio that I created? Think about some of the parameters. Most people, when you write a bio, you're not thinking about active versus passive voice. You're not thinking about inspirational tone versus serious tone. Writing something has 20 or 30 different parameters about it. That's what we have to get good at now. You want to avoid garbage in, garbage out, because you have to understand how things actually work. What are those parameters? Because we don't consciously think about that most of the time.
There's a question over here.
How is the AI capability ranking of the various countries measured and by whom?
So there's different people. They have their own calculations. So McKinsey, PwC, Deloitte, the United Nations, ITU. They all have their own studies. They have their own formulas, but it's fairly consistent across the board. That list I shared. I know a lot of questions, but can we maybe have one last one?
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
If I don't get your question, please just reach out to me. I'm happy to answer it via email, or we can figure out some other way as well, but I want to be sensitive to the time and everything like that.
Okay, one more question? Okay. I think, I'm not, our question, go ahead, you decide, Alan.
I don't have a question. I think I have an answer.
I love that. Solutions.
No, but a lot of people are talking about, have questions about AI. And I think what we haven't talked about yet is how you answer most of these questions. And you answer them by taking the information, determining who the source is, and relying on those sources. So you don't just take garbage that you get on the internet and accept it. You look at the source. You look at maybe a newspaper or maybe someone that you trust. In other words, we have an obligation to ourselves not to just take all of this garbage in. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. I appreciate that.